For many of us, going to the beach has long been at least the dream of a destination experience, as in trips to the Cape or the Vineyard. All too often, we've had to settle for less, especially before the Boston Harbor cleanup. But since that time, more people have been enjoying beaches as a neighborhood experience, partly thanks to the efforts of Save the Harbor, Save the Bay. To tell us what's in the lineup for this summer is the group's Director of Strategy and Communications, Berman. Thank you very much for being with us, Bruce.
Chris, it wouldn't be summer unless I was here with you.
And it wouldn't be summer unless you had the water quality report and kept a close eye on what's been happening since. What can you tell us?
So here's there's like two big takeaways, and they're not really shocking, but they're pretty interesting. The first is that the cleanest beaches in the region, from Nahant to Nantasket, urban beaches owned by the Department of Conservation and Recreation, 8 of the 13 beaches scored 100% last year. And I taught at BU. It's hard to beat 100%. That's an A, any way you cut it. The other beaches, most of them are doing okay. They're affected by rain dramatically, and we've had a very wet year this year, so I expect to see some challenges. But 2 of the region's beaches continue to lag behind, and that would be Tinian Beach in Dorchester, which is affected by the Neponset River, by also...
Even the expressway construction going way back.
Not just the expressway construction, but the drainage from the expressway, and also from well up into the neighborhood. That Boston Water and Sewer, with the support of the MWRA, are addressing house by house, building by building, street by street. It's a frustrating and time-consuming process, but they're doing it. And then Kings Beach in Lynn, which in the center of the beach has what's called Stacy Brook, but which is actually, and it is a brook, but it's largely stormwater, contaminated stormwater from both Swampscott and Lynn. Both the communities, for different reasons. Lynn because it's a gateway community without a lot of high income and valuable property, although it's a beautiful place and a lot of fun to be. The art up there is amazing. And then Swampscott, which is a small community with high property taxes. They're both not investing, I don't think, quite fast enough. And I think there's clarity now about what needs to be done, and I think we'll address those problems. Just one thing, I'm sorry to leap in on
go
you.
ahead.
But this year, because we had the wettest spring and an incredibly wet June and a very hot July, but mostly wet. Did I say wet? I think the wettest in history. We did see beaches that don't typically get closed frequently. Including Constitution Beach in East Boston, right, and Wollaston Beach, and others. Savin Hill, Malibu. We saw them closed more this year as a result of that, which means that we still do have some work to do, especially since these rainy summers and these hot weather summers seem to be the new normal.
What about what people get from these beaches? I mean, when I grew up, it was, you go swimming or you get a suntan, but other than that, what's going on out there?
Listen. We spent $5 billion improving the harbor, the bay, and the marine environment. And the beaches are the primary place where our region's residents can enjoy it. There's 2 million people that live within a short ride or a drive to the coast. And if you go out on a hot summer day, you'll see that there's social activity, kids are kids, a little bit less cell phones than there would be if they were in the city, but still plenty of that. But also swimming. Activities that are run by nonprofit organizations that Save the Harbor and DCR help to fund, like Art on the Shore in Constitution Beach this past weekend, or Life's a Beach festivals with circus performers and performing pirates. You see terrific stuff in Dorchester, in East Boston, in Revere, and you realize that you don't live in coastal Massachusetts by accident. You live here and you love the sea. And giving people a chance to experience it is what we're all about.
You recently had an event with a lot of young people brought to Carson Beach, if I remember.
We did.
I would have thought, well, kids, they just find their way to the beach by themselves, but I guess it's not as simple as that anymore.
It isn't. I mean, it's interesting how few of the region's public beaches are easily accessible by public transportation. 2 of my favorites, Nahant Beach Reservation on the North Shore and Nantasket, are a bit of a challenge to get to. But Carson Beach, well, you can just take the T to JFK and walk, or Revere Beach is on the Blue Line. We ran at the DCR's McCormick Bathhouse. We ran a Beach Bash and Splash for about 350 kids. We're running 3 of them this summer. Kids from across the city, from BCYF, Boys and Girls Clubs, YMCAs, and also from communities around the region. They come down and they do what you do on the beach. Beach games, Kayaks, we had free kayak lessons from our friends at Pierce Park. Dragon boats, okay, from folks at Ohana. And then performing pirates, and incredibly talented acrobats, aerialists, and jugglers from the Circus Guild, and a good old-fashioned cookout with hot dogs, and of course fresh vegetables, and lots of water on one of the hottest days of the year.
Of course, one other thing that occurred to me that's water-related is that you could bike all the way from Reedville to Castle Island practically along water. I mean, I never would have dreamed that would be possible.
It's true. More and more as we ran a series of community hearings for the legislature as part of the Metropolitan Beaches Commission there, we heard that connections, bike trails, walking pathways are real important. So, you can get to Tinian from the Neponset Greenway on your bicycle. And in Lynn or in East Boston, you can get to the beach by bike, something that was inconceivable 20 years ago, because frankly, not that many people wanted to go to beaches that were degraded.
This is BNN News, and we're talking with Bruce Berman from Save the Harbor, Save the Bay. Bruce, another event you had was the art on the beach at Constitution Beach in East Boston. How did that add value for the kids in the neighborhood?
Well, my God, if you just watched the piece that you guys ran, you'd see how it adds value. But here's what it does. Just first, let's explain it. An internationally renowned artist from California, who's fallen in love with Boston and the region. His name is Andres Amador. He uses rakes with participation from kids and communities to do designs, mandalas, and other art between the high tide and the low tide. So the first thing is it's fun to do. You use your whole body when you do it. And you can go swimming right afterwards to cool off. Second, it doesn't last very long. By the time the tide comes back in, it washes the canvas away. It's ephemeral, it's beautiful, and it connects people literally with the shore.
What about environmental education? That's something you've always been trying to pursue.
We're very proud of the fact that that since we started our youth environmental education programs at Save the Harbor, Save the Bay, we've connected nearly 250,000 kids from every neighborhood in the city and from more than 40 cities and towns around the region to the harbor, sometimes for the first time, often again and again as they grow up. Just a week ago, I got a text from Jen, I won't say her last name, but it's last, who ran our environmental education programs when we started them. She was 23 or 24 at the time. She was back on the harbor with her kids. She lives on the South Shore. And she texted me and she said, the South Shore beach in the community that she lived in was closed, but South Boston's beaches were open. And her kids caught crabs and fish with our program at the Children's Museum, a program that Jen helped design. And she said to me, when she was growing up, like when you and I were growing up, some of our memories of the beaches and the waterfront weren't great, but that her kids are going to remember a harbor from the beginning that's welcoming, inviting, and clean. And that's what we do with our environmental education programs. Create generations of harbor stewards that'll help us finish the job.
If there's one part of the waterfront where we've heard a lot of disappointment expressed about access, it's the Seaport District. I mean, some people, if they look at it, they see a blend of maybe Kendall Square and Chestnut Hill Mall. You see it maybe more times of the day, more days of the week. What's your view?
So look, my office is on the Fish Pier, and we run programs 5 days a week that connect kids, 10,000 of them, from our communities to the Harbor Islands from the Seaport, from 120 community groups. So I see the Seaport as a destination, a small d democratic destination for people from across the city. I'm also there, as you said, in the morning, early, and I see who works in the Seaport. Earlier today, I was talking to someone from the Cronin Restaurant Group. Their headquarters are in the Seaport. They own a number of restaurants. They have 2,500 employees. It's an amazingly diverse workforce. The hospitality industry, the hotels, the restaurants, and the seafood processing business. Those are good jobs, and there are literally thousands of people of color, and of all incomes, working there. And then there's tech. Of course there's going to be, look, there's some things that are above my pay grade, Chris. The truth is that the people that buy million-dollar condos in the most fashionable part of the city are going to reflect the people that have enough money to buy condos. And we all know that there's a disparity between the rich and the poor. It seems to have grown a bit in the past couple of years, and that's reflected culturally and racially and by national origin. We can't fix that problem, but what we can do is make a district that's inviting. So we do our part at Save the Harbor, Save the Bay. 10,000 kids a year. This year we've expanded the program with the help of the Mass Department of Environmental Protection and our sponsors and funders, including Bay State Cruise Line and the Cronin Development Corporation. We've expanded our program and are going to serve 5,000 families and parents and adult members of the kids that we serve in the summer, bringing 15,000 people out. We're really proud of it, and we hope everybody else will step up to the plate and help us.
I imagine the Seafood Festival coming up will be a draw there, but what about some of the events that you're organizing at local beaches? Anything up ahead people should be
So you know, if your kids belong to a community organization, they're going to get invited to come to our kids programming. But if you want to have some fun on the harbor and on the beaches, go to our website. You can see a complete list of programs that are coming up. But also sign up for one of our Share the Harbor cruises. Next week, I think we're going to go to Boston Light after work for free. We have room for 1,400 people on the boat. Really, we try to keep it under 1,000. There's room for everybody.
And there's more details on the website?
Absolutely. SaveTheHarbor.org.
Thank you very much for being with us.
My pleasure.
Bruce Berman from Save the Harbor, Save the Bay. In a moment, we'll hear about a celebration of Caribbean fashion, but first, this message.